He's not happy he lost. Childish comment, but life goes on. You gotta come back stronger. Can't dwell.
Do you know what it is with that losing shit? Yeah, you can try and explain it. People always interpret how they're going to interpret it. As long as you know where you stand with your shit, good and bad, that's all that matters. Because people are always going to interpret the story however they fucking want. Do you know what I mean? You can tell your missus, listen, I weren't dancing with that girl, she was just she's going to interpret how she wants. But as long as you stay true to yourself and know where you stand with the situation, you ain't got nothing to worry about, you know what I mean?
There you go.
Anthony Joshua shoots down the idea that he was relieved to lose and not be a champion and lose to Andy Ruiz. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. Now, Anthony Joshua went live on his Instagram feed a couple of days ago, and he kind of spoke to the fans. Somebody was filming, and he made some statements. You've seen the video at the beginning. He was basically saying, someone made a comment in the comment section and said, hey, he looked relieved to lose, because after the fight, it looked like before the fight, it looked like he was extremely worried and anxious, and he just looked out of sorts. And when he was walking out and everyone was talking about it, his dad attacked Eddie Hearn for some reason that they're not claiming, and people are like, what is up? What's going on? Why do you look all beady-eyed and things on the walkout? And then after he lost, it was almost like a sense of relief. And Eddie Hearn said that. He said that, I think he was relieved of the pressure of, all these fights, Wilder fights in the bag, Tyson Fury carrying the UK, being the biggest star. And Eddie Hearn reiterated that. I'll put the link in the description, but Sporting News covered it. And Eddie Hearn on his podcast says, quote, Anthony has the massive pressure on his shoulder all the time. He is the first megastar of boxing in the United Kingdom, and it was almost like a relief to him. He will never admit it. He will never admit that. But the fact that I am the challenger now, I am not this champion who has 4 belts and who everyone expects me to win all the time, it's kind of like the pressure is off. Right? Joshua has rebutted that, because it's not just Eddie Hearn saying that. Other people, including myself, said that's what it looked like. And I guess a commenter in the live said, hey, it looked like you were happy. And his friend jumped in the mix, captain, and jumped to his defense while AJ was playing ping pong. And he was like, oh, that's a childish comment. That's childish. He's not happy to lose, but he's not going to dwell on it. And then Joshua seemingly was playing ping pong, but overheard what was going on between his friend and the random commenter. And then Joshua decides to explain. And he says, as long as you know where you stand with your shit, good or bad, that's all that matters. People are always going to interpret the story however the fuck they want. As long as you stay true to yourself and know where you stand in the situation, you got nothing to worry about. He also gave some kind of example, but it was inaudible. He said something like, it was like the missus and your missus. So you take the dishes and the missus. And I couldn't understand what he was saying. It was really hard. But you guys could watch the clip at the beginning and try to interpret what he was saying in that particular spot. Listen, this is one of the worst years for old media. New media is the future. I told you. Just so many reasons. Like, a lot of what people said has shown to not be the case. A lot of what people said has been proven false by now, and just the statements being made. You got this thing with Eddie Hearns and Anthony Joshua, and it doesn't seem like they're on the same page. Eddie Hearn saying, hey, he said this multiple times. Immediately after the fight, he said it to his podcast. He said, hey, I think Joshua, he's never going to admit this, but it looks like he was relieved that he's no longer the champion. He don't have all this pressure anymore. But then Joshua's coming back out and saying, hey, that's not the case at all. People are going to interpret it however the fuck they want. So it's just a bad look for old media. And I think Eddie Hearn and Joshua, they should really, really for the sake of their brand and stuff, have a team meeting and everyone get on the same page, because it's clear to me that that's not the case. They aren't on the same page. And this is not the only thing. Joshua says he got marks on his face before the Ruiz fight because of physio. Left a lot of people scratching their head, raising the eyebrow like, what do you mean physio? What happened? And he's like, oh yeah, recovery. It's my recovery. And then days later, he told Sky Sports that he got the marks on his face a different reason. He said it was a line in the camp, presumably Joey Dwecko. And he says, like, basically it comes with the territory. So seemingly he came clean. So he told seconds out that it was physio, raised eyebrows. Then days later, he told Sky Sports, this is Joshua. He told Sky Sports he had a line in the camp and his war wounds that come with the job. And then Eddie Hearn did an interview with IFL, and he says it was a compression machine. It wasn't even a black eye. So it's like this keeps happening with Team Joshua, where one person will say something and then that same person will change it. Or Eddie Hearn will be saying something and then Joshua will be saying something. And this just makes the team look bad when you guys can't all be on the same, in unison, on the same accord with the same agenda. This keeps happening. So many different things. Another quick example would be immediately after the Andy Ruiz fight, Joshua appeared and sounded uncertain as to if he was rematching Andy Ruiz. It seemed like he had things to consider. He wasn't aware if there was a rematch clause. This is all documented things. Like, it's like Team Joshua, Eddie Hearn, AJ, Barry Hearn, they're acting like cameras and microphones do not exist. Anthony Joshua sounded extremely uncertain that an immediate rematch was the thing. Sounded like he had to mull it over and he wasn't sure if there was a rematch clause in the contract. So it's weird that 2 days later, Eddie Hearn on his verified Instagram account, on his social media, he's announcing the fight, even though they don't have a venue, even though they don't have any kind of paperwork, and they hadn't even come to terms with Andy Ruiz's. I understand contractually Andy Ruiz has to, afford him the opportunity because they pushed through and triggered their immediate rematch, but it's just not a good look. Why won't Joshua announce it? His other fights with Joseph Parker and Povetkin, he's announcing it too and doing videos, and then immediately after the fight, he seems like uncertain if he even knows if the rematch is due up, and doesn't know if he even has a rematch clause. But Eddie Hearn is domineering him and saying, hey, the rematch, we doing it. I met with them, we doing it. And we don't even really hear Joshua up until recently confirm it during this live Instagram thing. So it's just really feels like the team is all over the place. And so is old media. They're scrambling. They're scrambling to think of the next thing to say. Some people have already jumped ship. Anthony Joshua is still a good fighter, but I see some people have jumped ship to Tyson Fury. And everybody's noticing the same things that new media have been saying, the inconsistencies with the story. Anthony Joshua denying Eddie Hearn's claim that he was relieved to no longer be a champion. So that seems like a discord in the camp, with them. And the funny thing is, here's a fun fact. Link in the description. Sportingnews.com is a UK-based media website, right? Guess who they're owned by? The same people that own DAZN. So this is basically why, if people, when I say something, they say, oh, it's because you're so biased and you have it out for so and so. But this company that wrote the same article that is linked in the description is owned by the same people that own DAZN. So who's really biased? They're saying the same thing. And this is all tied in and all goes back. Look it up. The Perform Group or whoever, the powers that be that are responsible for DAZN are responsible for this sporting news website. That's why they have these exclusive interviews with Eddie Hearn, and they were talking about the Wilder fight and why it's not happening. And then they would immediately have, this, because it's part of the DAZN people. So, man, new media has been on it. See, I know things that other people don't. And you can even tell if you look at the fonts and the lettering and, the aesthetics of DAZN, and then you look at the website of Sporting News, it looks like they might even have the same web designer that built both, because it's a real similar feng shui. It's a very similar feel. If you look at DAZN, all their graphics, if you look at DAZN's website, if you've been on the DAZN app, it looks really and feels similar. It has a similar like feel. Like, it's just like certain people, Quentin Tarantino, the way he styles his movies, a lot of times he'll tell the story from the back and show you a scene from the end and then work his way to the end. You know, he does little things as a director, and it looks like the same people or the same team doing the graphics or something, because DAZN, the layout looks very similar to this website. Don't take my word for it, research it. So it's looking real bad for old media, because they swear it's all these other conspiracies and, you know, it's me that's not telling the truth, and everyone's saying the same thing now, things that I've told you, things that I predicted before they happened. So good luck with that. Joshua saying he's not relieved. Eddie Hearn saying he feels like Joshua is relieved and he's never going to admit it. It's like, who do we believe? And you look at the Wilder situation with Joshua, and it makes it harder and harder to believe the stuff that they were saying. Do you look at the Luis Ortiz? Oh, we just wanted to fight him so bad on 5 weeks notice. Did you really? You know, maybe you communicated with his team, and as soon as there was a difference in the money or there was turmoil, Eddie Hearn ran to the press and tried to slander and make it look like Luis Ortiz has never wanted to fight Joshua. And we know that wasn't the case, because Luis Ortiz, he had been calling out Joshua for over a year. I did videos. That's what I'm saying. Old media is constantly having to come from behind with these crazy stories and Hail Mary plays, because they have to try to play cleanup. They have to do damage control, because the information they put out just hasn't been reliable. It hasn't been accurate at all, you know. And, you know, Joshua going into this Ruiz rematch, this is just a massive risk and danger for Anthony Joshua, because it's really do or die here. And I'll be honest, to see Andy Ruiz win and the underdog story and Cinderella Man being brought in to lose, it's a rewarding feeling for boxing fans to see that, like, hey, that's what happens when you overplay your hand and play games and try to control the board. Now Al Heyman is one fight away from securing the heavyweight division, barring mandatories, which can be you can override that by making unifications. And hopefully, if Ruiz beats Joshua in the rematch, we don't have these games. We could see Wilder Fury and then the winner fight against Andy Ruiz, if he is able to have the title. So Wilder Ruiz, because Joshua and Eddie Hearn, I think they had a plan for their fighter, and they always talked about it. Oh, we have a 10-year plan, and why rush? Why? You know, they didn't want to fight Wilder, but they overplayed their hand, and when the pressure started coming on them, they started getting dramatic and trying to force and instill in the fight fans' mind that they were the ones pushing for the fight the whole time, and it was Wilder. And just these games, it created almost like a turf war, where you have fans warring in the comment section about some bullshit. And we know it wasn't true, because we've been documenting it. New media has been held accountable and creating a paper trail for the last several years on this very situation. So good luck to everybody involved. Joshua and his team, I think they should really get on the same page, because Joshua doesn't hold all the cards anymore. He took a nasty loss, a loss that some people question if he can even bounce back, especially in an immediate rematch scenario. So, you know, it's like walking on a tightrope. The things that people settled for and accepted to begin with, maybe they're not so lenient and willing to accept those things now that you don't have all the belts. You're no longer undefeated, and you're not really in the position of power that you once were. People dealt with it and people rode for the cause, but now, you know, after taking the ugly spill and knockout loss, and the impression that a lot of people have is Joshua quit, they have a lot of damage control and a lot of ground to make up. Let me know what you guys think. Joshua said he wasn't relieved, which is basically a direct rebuttal to Eddie Hearn and everybody that said he was happy to lose or relieved. So you let me know in the comment section who you believe here. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We working. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.